my point is that if the government, all it has to do is, either kill 5 people or 2 people or 1 person, or shut down 1 company, or shut down like 5 AWS nodes and the thing is gone, or pauses, or has to restart, or whatever, like what are we even doing? I mean, it's so ridiculous. The whole point of Bitcoin is to separate money from state, and especially when it comes to the flow and issuance of money.
This is the Blue Collar Bitcoin Podcast, a show where average Joe firefighters explore the most important monetary technology of the 21st century. We talk Bitcoin, we talk finance, and we talk shit. Whoa, doggy. Do we have a special discussion for you this week? In this episode, Josh and myself, Dan, are joined by mythical and prolific Bitcoin thinker, someone we're humbled to find out as a regular listener of this show, Gigi. Gigi is a software engineer and writer, among other things. I would describe Gigi as a Bitcoiner's Bitcoiner. His ideas are deeply original and movingly profound. He has had a massive impact on a large number of key names in this space. We both agree that several of his standout pieces will likely stand the test of time as seminal works of Bitcoin literature. We talked to Gigi for almost 2 hours, so we're going to divide this chat into 2 fairly distinct parts. In this first hour, we explore a number of topics with Gigi, including why altcoins are camouflage for Bitcoin, why Bitcoin is morally and religiously significant, the nature of intersubjective value, the overwhelming importance of an immutable and digital bearer asset, and why Vitalik Buterin needs a Honda lawnmower. In hour 2, we tee the ball up high for Gigi regarding proof of work and why Bitcoin reinvents time itself. Spoiler, he tees off and cranks a drive 320 yards straight up the middle of the fairway. Word of advice, drop everything this second and bookmark daregigi.com. That's DERGIGI.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at daregigi. As always, you can follow us on Twitter where we're active at blue_collar BTC. And if you're picking up what we're putting down here at the Blue Collar Bitcoin Podcast, subscribe or leave us a review on Apple. The Blue Collar Bitcoin Podcast is brought to you by, yep, you guessed it, CoinKite. CoinKite makes the best security hardware in the business and much more. Get 5% off CoinKite products at coinkite.com using promo code BCB. Now, first off, I hate to resort to peer pressure, but if you consider yourself a Bitcoiner and you don't have a cold card, in the name of Great Scott's beard, what are you doing? Bitcoin is a digital bearer asset, and there's no better way to take true possession of it than with the tried and true, battle-tested, fully air-gapped Cold Card Mark IV. When storing the most pristine asset on planet Earth, don't compromise. CoinKite also makes the stunning block clock. Track prices, see blocks as they're published by miners, view the next halving date, and throw up tons more cool Bitcoin metrics on a timeless e-ink digital display. What time is it? It's Moscow time. The Blue Collar Bitcoin Podcast is also powered by Ledn. Ledn is a very unique financial services company with a highly principled, Bitcoin-forward perspective. Ledn is the first ever digital asset lending platform to undergo a formal proof of reserves attestation. This is where an independent public accountant consistently attests that the company is properly accounting for client assets. Simply put, this company mirrors and embraces the transparency, accountability, and auditability of the Bitcoin protocol and network itself. If you've listened to BCB much at all, you certainly notice that we advise our listeners to be careful, manage risk, and never get over-leveraged. Now, that does include ensuring that any borrowing and lending decisions make sound mathematical sense based on your lifestyle and specific situation. Where available in your jurisdiction, Ledn offers a menu of powerful financial services. Keep ownership of your Bitcoin and access dollar loans with Ledn Bitcoin-backed loans. Harness your Bitcoin holdings to buy a new property or finance the home you already own with the upcoming Ledn Bitcoin mortgage product. Save Bitcoin and USDC to have access to Ledn dollar loans or their trading service if available. You can look into Ledn's well-architected menu of services at ledn.io, that's LEDN.io, and visit start.ledn.io/bluecollarbitcoin and sign up to get $10 USDC for creating and funding an account. Okay, folks, sit back, relax, and prepare to get your mind boggled by the wondrousness of Gigi. And as this thing kicks off, make sure kids around you have earmuffs on. It starts out delightfully frisky. Enjoy. All views and language expressed by the hosts and guests in this podcast are solely their personal opinions and do not reflect their employers or organizations they are associated with. Do not treat any of the content in this podcast as investment advice or as an inducement to follow a particular strategy. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only.
Gigi, welcome. I gotta say, we're humbled. We just learned that you actually listened to our show, which is kind of shocking, Josh. Like, how is somebody this intelligent spending every week with the two of us? It doesn't make sense.
It's kind of mind blowing.
You guys don't know that I'm a retard. That's the issue.
There's no way that's true. Dan and I just spent like a week reading all your stuff again, and it hits even harder the second time. It's incredible stuff. The kind of polymath you need to be to draw parallels between the far-reaching, stuff from physics to code to Bitcoin it's stunning, really.
Gigi, let me say this before I let you kind of intro yourself. We at the Firehouse, we like to describe amazing things, whatever they are. Most of them non-sexual. We say they fuck hard.
May disagree.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, we say this pizza fucks hard. Okay, I want to say this: your writing, Gigi, fucks hard.
Yeah, I can agree.
So thanks for the kind words. And I don't know in which episode it was, but yeah, I remember you guys saying this about Bitcoin as well, as compared to all other assets, like Bitcoin, like this guy fucks hard. And I agree. I completely agree. Like that's the perfect
Satoshi
description.
himself. He's got to fuck really hard. If he's still around, he's slaying out there.
He definitely does.
As someone that's listened to us a lot, though, we don't throw this out flippantly. When we say something fucks hard, folks, we are dead serious about it.
Yeah. Deep.
Gigi, how are you? How's your day been? What's going on with you today?
Oh, I'm excellent. I'm living the life as far as I'm concerned. Like I practice what I preach. So all I do is try to produce value, stay humble, stack sats. I'm not phased at all by any price corrections. I'm actually happy about it because you can stack more sats a little bit. And I try to stay on the ground of things and just write stuff that's useful. I'm not coding as much as I wish I would, but I'm working on software and working on the things I love, which is Bitcoin and privacy related stuff and those kind of things. So life's amazing if like stacking sats is a cheat code. And if you know this, life's amazing.
It really is. It's funny you say that because Dan and I harp on this at the Firehouse all the time. Like nothing has changed. Bitcoin is not broken. Yeah. Everything's fine. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with what's going on except for the fact that the whole macroeconomic landscape has just taken a real hard nosedive and we're along for the ride. And it's just a great opportunity to be stacking sats in a bear market, which is the time to do it when nobody wants to do it.
Yeah. It's also the time to really focus in and, build and produce great content and so on, because the bull markets are also great. It's great to have your thesis and your worldview validated and so on. But there's so much noise and there are so many scams and it's just, I don't like it as much. And I think most people that have been around for a while will kind of tell you the same thing. It's like the bull markets are cool and okay, but the bear markets are really great because then the right people stick around, all the bullshit fades away and fades to the background, and all the shills and everyone who is riding Bitcoin's coattails drops off, and they will do something else and do some other scams and just build some other non-crypto related pyramid schemes or whatever they do. I have no idea.
Pack up the snake oil circus and move to the next town.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You get a picture for who's actually here for the right reasons. Like we're not above talking about price, but that's not the thrust of our show. So it wasn't when we were at 70,000 and it still isn't when we're at 20,000. We're here to explore the ideas and the significance of this discovery, not price action.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's also funny, there's this meme and there are all these memes and there's this old video where the guy goes through the the last crashes of Bitcoin. It was like, and then it crashed to 30 cents and then it shot back up again to like $10 and then it crashed back down to like $3 or whatever. And then it shot up to $100 and then it crashed back down to $20. And it just keeps on going like this. And it's like, so yeah, don't buy Bitcoin, it's going to crash. And it just, it keeps repeating and repeating. Now people are basically going like, Bitcoin is dead because it crashed to 20K or whatever, like I also don't watch the price. So I think the lowest was 17K or something, according to Twitter memes now. That's my only price indication is Twitter memes. Moscow time and Twitter memes. And
once in a while, it's kind of appropriate for, even though Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger are just old, technological buffoons, they do have some great quotes. And one of them from one of those two, I can't remember which, is when the tide rolls in, or rolls out, I'm sorry, you see who's swimming naked, who's got no shorts on. And it looks like Celsius was swimming pretty naked. And Voyager and the rest of that crowd, they were just literally skinny dipping, and everyone sees everything now. And they're pretty fat and ugly.
I have like a love-hate relationship with the shitcoins and those kind of Ponzi schemes and so on, because I think you mentioned this too, that you view shitcoins as Bitcoin camouflage, basically. And it's like that it's a very I think it is very true, because all of it is so new and very hard to understand, and so Bitcoin is kind of grouped into the broader crypto space. And so in terms of regulation and all those kind of things, I think that's good for Bitcoin, that some obvious Ponzi schemes and some other things, they will be bidden first, kind of, and regulated first, and so on. But it's also like Bitcoin adoption would go much quicker, and it would be way more helpful if those scams wouldn't be here for regular people, because I think the people that are suffering from inflation, for example, and really they're fighting a losing battle, like you're in the hamster wheel and it just keeps speeding up. And so these are the people I would really like to help with just writing stuff about Bitcoin and just trying to understand it all. And that's also why, I'm the biggest fan of just auto DCing and staying humble and stacking sats, because finally the regular person has something to beat the whole system, to exit the whole unfair system. And all these degen finance people and all the everyone again who is like using Bitcoin success to build up Ponzi schemes and just straight out scams, and also distractions from Bitcoin, like it's it used to be Litecoin. I always bring up this example now because everyone knows that Litecoin is such an insane shitcoin, like it's so terrible and so stupid. So it's a great example to bring up, because it's always the same formula, like it's Bitcoin is too slow, so you have to use Litecoin, like Bitcoin is 2x, so use shitcoin Y. And it's always the same. It doesn't matter if it's, like speed or on-chain capacity or smart contracts or privacy or whatever. It's always like, don't use Bitcoin, like use my shitcoin, where I'm the biggest backholder, once something like blows up, or like in the end, it always comes out that all the shills, they had like, bags of the shitcoin you wouldn't even believe. And so
worse than you thought it was. When the information comes out.
And so currently it's like all these degenerate gamblers that just build out lending systems and Ponzi schemes and all the rest of it. And I think NVK on your show had a nice quote. I was laughing so hard, where he's like, we'll walk 40 years in the desert because of the degen logs or something. And that's like, yeah, it is true. Like it's ridiculous.
It's funny you bring up Litecoin too, because in the scheme of in the realm of shitcoins, which are like 20,000 of them, including one called Jizz Rocket or something, that's actually a pretty legitimate coin. Like as far as I'm in this day and age, like 10 years ago, it might have been. Yeah. But now we've got Celsius's nonsense shitcoin and everything up and down the line, which is all nonsense completely. At least Litecoin initiated as like some kind of semblance of, a use case, even though it's totally bullshit as far as we're concerned. But in the realm of shitcoins, it's fairly legitimate compared to most of these things.
We will be, I don't know if we're going to be, hamstrung's not the right word, because in some ways the shitcoins absorb people, but then they, in some ways, delay. Like which of those two is it? And it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it's hilarious to think about them being aligned with Bitcoin to such an extent by the mainstream. It's the exact opposite of what Bitcoin's trying to accomplish, and it's lumped in the same category.
That's exactly right. And I think that the reason why it's the exact opposite is it's a moral reason through and through. And I mean, you guys talked about this as well. And I think it was with VJ where, Bitcoin had this Immaculate conception, and I wrote about this as well. And this is what makes it morally significant. And this is also what makes it, quote unquote, religiously significant. And you can't really replicate this. And so all the shitcoins are tainted from start, kind of. And it's
shitcoins are born into sin, folks. Born into sin.
Pretty much. I mean, show me a shitcoin that doesn't have a pre-mine, and like also it gets worse and worse. Like you mentioned, it's like they are not even trying anymore. Now you just mint, 5 million NFTs that are generated by an AI, and you flip everyone for $500,000 or something. Like it's so ridiculous, And NVK has his handle like deterministic optimism. It's like that's the only thing we have. Like, and it's and he mentions this all the time as well. And I think a lot of Bitcoiners have the same opinion. It's Bitcoin either goes to zero or to the moon. Like those are the only two outcomes. There are no other outcomes. And so it's like once you realize this, everything else becomes a distraction. And if Bitcoin goes to zero, everything else will go to zero too. Like Bitcoin is the only thing. Like if Bitcoin fails, everything else fails too. And but it is also like, take everything I say with a grain, like with a large grain of salt, because everything has so much nuance. Like it is Bitcoin is to use your phrase again. The slippery hog, and we're all wrestling with the slippery hog.
We just tossed a lot of people off the back of that slippery hog in the last couple of months.
Definitely.
Every Homo sapien needs to wrestle with the slippery hog.
And it's not only in terms of market movements and so on, but also in just trying to understand this thing and trying to define Bitcoin. And I always say the same kind of things, but it's no one can define Bitcoin for you. What Bitcoin is, you have to decide. Like there is no third party, there's no external entity that can tell you what Bitcoin is. You decide for yourself what Bitcoin is by running your own node. That's it. And you kind of have to understand some things, and you have to make up your mind about some things. But there are people that are running old Bitcoin versions that are still in consensus, and some of these versions are pre-SegWit. So their version of Bitcoin doesn't have the Lightning Network, and they probably don't need it. Like they're old school, they're like whatever, whales living in the jungle and having helipads with, instead of an H, a V on it, and those kind of people. And they're religious about it, and it's like, SegWit was an effective block size increase, and because now we have like bigger blocks than 1 megabyte, they don't like this. And some people even run code, nodes that have code that was touched by Satoshi still, like the last version that was released by Satoshi, and they're still in consensus, and that's still Bitcoin, that's still fine. And we will have this problem always in perpetuity. Like no one can tell you what Bitcoin is because there is no central authority. So you have to decide for yourself. And that's so fascinating to me. That's why it's such a slippery hog. Like you cannot say what Bitcoin is, and more importantly, what it will be.
The religious aspects of this are so interesting. And I think what we should do with Bitcoin, which is what we've traditionally done with every religion through eternity, which is steal and pillage all of the good parts of the previous religions and just paste them on. So we could have maybe the Bitcoin Trinity, the nodes, the miners, the software, maybe /wetware, the humans. But man, there's so many compelling parallels with comparing religion to this thing. It's kind of crazy.
Who's Satan in this thing?
Ooh, Garlinghouse? I don't know. Who knows?
He tempts you. He's the temptress.
Who's the other clown who was just saying proof of work is wasteful from XRP from Ripple?
Oh my God.
What is that guy's name? Can't remember. Anyway,
I have way, this goes without saying, but I have way more sympathy for people that outright hate this and don't understand it than those who have some semblance of understanding and still are deceitful with how they frame it,
Yeah, I think these people are the worst kind of, where you know exactly what you're doing, and you're just, lying, scamming people and so on. And I think it's one of the books everyone should read is The Ethics of Money Production. And that was like, I had multiple kind of, moments where the Satoshi really dropped for me. And one of them was the realization that the act of creating money, monetary units, is very, very different than doing anything else. Like if you're providing a regular good or service, then especially, especially in the current system, because from the Austrian perspective, it's like money is the most liquid good, and it's a good like everyone else. And also in the book, The Ethics of Money Production, it's basically a moral and ethical argument why government should never be involved in creating money. Period. And so you have competition, and then you have all the shitcoins and so on. But you trust in the market you trust in market forces to figure out what is the hardest money in terms of like hardest to produce, and what is the most liquid good, what has the best monetary characteristics, and then you will have one money. Basically, like that's what happened with the gold standard and so on. Like because money is singular. Like that's also something that people don't realize. That's especially the shitcoin. It's like you want to have a token like let's tokenize everything. Okay, well, welcome to barter. If you tokenize absolutely everything, you don't need money in the first place. You can just trade whatever it is. It's also stupid.
Have you read Nick Szabo's piece, Shelling Out?
Oh yeah, of course.
You just reminded me of some of the examples from that. Like I think the Africans were using glass beads as money, and the Europeans realized, holy shit, we can just make as many glass beads as we want. We'll trade these glass beads for their gold. And so basically they hyperinflated their glass beads and took all their valuable goods. And so that's why hard money wins.
If you can produce the money, that's also why they were called slave beads, because if you can produce someone's money very easily, way easier than they can, then you can just, infiltrate them and just buy everything they have. And that's why the settlers came and they had their boats full of glass beads, and they just bought people outright, bought absolutely everything.
I mean, you look at the middle class today, and it's almost
same thing is
parallel to that.
Yeah,
the middle class is getting eaten alive by this money creation. That is, it's the Cantillon effect is taking it to the top, and everyone is kind of sliding down the scale, except for the people in the maybe 1 to 5% at the top.
Yeah, and the point I'm trying to make, and that's why I recommend absolutely everyone should read The Ethics of Money Production by Hülsmann.
On the list.
And
I have never read that, believe it or not. Have you, Josh?
Yeah, you should.
No, I haven't. Do you know who wrote that?
Jörg Guido Hülsmann, so it's a German name. I'm not sure how to pronounce it in English.
Is that a pretty old one? It sounds like it would be.
No, I think it was. It doesn't have Bitcoin in it, but I think it was written around the same time, something like that. It's not that old, so probably like 2009, but I don't know.
Okay,
but it's not terribly old, because there are some books on money that are like 100 years old or older that are absolutely excellent. One is called, the German title is Agendarius, and it's letters from a central banker to his son. The English title is a little bit different. It's something like Hard Money or something. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But it was recently translated to English just like 6 months ago or a year ago or something. And it's, I think, one of the best books when it comes to exactly the question of money production. What is the difference between a base money and currency? Like, what is the difference of gold itself and the notes that you get that are redeemable for gold and so on, And I mean, now every Bitcoiner kind of knows this. And, like if you read Seyfedin and if you read the fiat standard, it's basically, the salability across time and the salability across space. And gold had this problem that you cannot send it around very quickly, and that you have to store it very securely, because otherwise someone can come and just steal it, and transport is difficult and so on, again, because of stealing. And so they put a second layer technology, so to speak, on top of gold to make it easier to transport across space, because gold holds its wealth very well across time, even though it has like 2% inflation or something like that, because we dig more gold out of the ground all the time. But still, like if you have 5 gold bars and you pass it on to the next generation and the next generation, you're still doing really well, like even over hundreds or thousands of years, And so it's very different than fiat money in that respect, because if you have like fiat money under your mattress and you keep it there for 200 years, the fiat money will be worthless, because no fiat money survives longer than like 130 years or something. The average time of fiat money is like 30 years or something ridiculously low. Like all fiat monies die, all fiat monies go to zero because they're worthless. And that comes back to the question of money production and the free market for money and so on.
And back to its intrinsic value.
Yeah, exactly. If money is easy to make, then I would say that the kind of the marginal cost of making more, and because the intrinsic value is it's in the Austrian School of Economics, it doesn't really exist because value is it's so
Subjective.
tricky to talk about these things because value is definitely subjective. What's valuable to you, I cannot tell. It's very different than what's valuable to me. That's also why Saylor talks about inflation being a vector, because depending on your tastes and your lifestyle and whatever, and your circumstances, like if you have kids that go to college, inflation hits you very differently than if you're a single guy or whatever, And I always like to say that value is subjective. But money is like the language of intersubjective value, if you want. Like what markets do is they figure out the intersubjective value of things. Because if you bring a lot of people together and let them trade and figure it out, then you will find a market price, and that is kind of the intersubjective value. But it's not really an objective value. You know what I mean? Like it's just that something comes out of it, and most people are willing to sell you, I don't know, their phone for $300 or whatever. And it's you have to understand all of these kind of things to also understand money and money production and the ethics of money production. Because if you're selling something to the market, a good or a service, then you're actually producing something for society that other people find valuable, and they will voluntarily give money to you. They will trade their stored wealth, their stored time for whatever you're producing. So that's a net benefit. And just producing money, printing money in the fiat system right now, someone presses a button and it's like $6 trillion come into existence, and that's a destructive act, and you're not producing anything for society that is valuable, like you're just inflating the money supply, and it's such a different thing. And once I figured this out, it's like a light bulb went off in my head. It's and that's also like the whole reason why I went on this rant is like, the religious aspect of Bitcoin and the immaculate conception of Bitcoin. We have perfect money now. No one has any influence on its monetary issuance. And that's also something that Hayek talked about, that the root of all monetary evil is the government control of the issuance and flow of money. And Bitcoin fixes both of these things because it kind of is like a natural law now. The issuance of Bitcoin and the flow of Bitcoin cannot be controlled by any single party, especially not by governments. Bitcoin is purpose-built to be government resistant, and that's also why, like, if you're working on a shitcoin and the shitcoin is not government resistant, what are you even doing? Like, you have no idea. Why are you wasting your time?
You're trying to get rich.
Of course, yeah.
We say on here, like, we're not talking about something that's going to last for a decade or 2 decades. For this use case to be intact, for this thesis to be what the three of us think it is, this thing needs to be prepared to exist for centuries, right? It needs to have the decentralization and immutability to hold up into perpetuity with threats that we haven't even envisioned yet. When you compare that lofty goal with many of these altcoin projects, you just laugh. I mean, that's where the scam is most exposed to me, as you say, how is this going to hold up for 30 years? Look at XRP, for example. How is some proprietary software backed by traditional funding, run by CEOs and boards, going to be base layer human settlement language in the future for decades? Like, it's not. It's so obviously not.
If it gets big enough, the government will come in and just, the party is over. And that's also what always happened before Bitcoin. Many people tried to do digital gold or eCash or whatever before Bitcoin. And it always kind of worked, and then it got big and then the government stepped in and the party was over. And this will be true for all the shitcoins basically too, like especially also like the more complicated something is, the harder it will be to run a node. And the more centralized the whole system will be. And with all the smart contract shitcoins, like pick anyone. There's like hundreds, but like I will not mention shitcoins by name because I think shitcoins thrive on exposure. So
shitcoin that shall not be named.
No, I'm serious about this because it's like, okay, I'm mentioning some name and it's like I have 5 or 6 different now in my head, and I mentioned one of them, and someone who is clueless will hear it and it's like, okay, that's the good smart contract thingy now and so on. So might you maybe invest something, whatever, put some money in there. No, they're all shit. Like, don't even name them. But my point is that if the government, all it has to do is either kill 5 people or 2 people or 1 person, or shut down 1 company, or shut down like 5 AWS nodes and the thing is gone, or pauses, or has to restart, or whatever. Like, what are we even doing? Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? I mean, it's so ridiculous. The whole point of Bitcoin is to separate money from state, and especially when it comes to the flow and issuance of money. And so that's why I love you guys so much, because you figured this out as well in terms of, it's not about making money in sense of creating the monetary tokens, like it's just like in the gold standard, the winning strategy was not to dig gold out of the ground. It was to specialize, do something you're good at, fighting fires, being paramedics, whatever, having hard money that you can trust in. And with gold, it was, no one knew this back in the day, but gold does not go away. Gold does not rust. Gold does not react with anything. Gold does not, destroy itself. And just you can. The reliable thing about gold is that it's scarce. It's very, very hard to produce more of it, and it's stable atomically. So it's the physical properties of gold make it very good money. With Bitcoin, it's very similar, but it's way, way, way better than gold. It's like a 10x improvement on gold, at least. I would even say it's like a 100x improvement on gold, because Bitcoin is pure information and you can teleport it. And so what you should do is, like, you don't have to, invest in something or become like a real estate agent on the side or become like a stockbroker on the side or whatever, or go into the casino with your hard-earned money. No, do whatever you're good at. The example I give always now is like, just mow some fucking lawns, man. Just, if you're good at mowing lawns, mow the fucking lawns, live below your means, and you have a tool where you can save. And if you're good at lawn mowing, like, you'll build a business and you'll buy more lawnmowers and you hire a guy that helps you, and then you mow 2 lawns at the same time, and then 5, and you'll be doing well. And you see this at the when we were at the gold standard, it's called the Belle Epoque for a reason. Everyone was able to specialize, and you didn't have to care about where to store your money. Like, money is there to be, money is storage already. That's why money exists. And now we have it.
Vitalik, did you hear that? You should be mowing lawns. Just give up on this whole thing. Better, make the world be a better place.
Yeah, the world would be a way, way better place, man.
Get yourself a Honda lawnmower, Vitalik. They're the best, okay? I can swear by them.
Strong engine. It's a strong
engine. Gigi, here's what I was going to say about the gold thing you mentioned. Bitcoin being so much better. This is so obvious to me. We know we have the track record of understanding why gold failed as base layer money.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned this earlier. It failed because of portability, divisibility, and I would argue censorship resistance, because it was prone to centralization. Maybe you could say because of the difficulty of portability. So we know why gold failed. And now we see that Bitcoin is doing and can potentially do the things gold couldn't. Yeah. So the Bitcoin is better than gold thing, at least as we play out this scenario of separating money from state, reinserting a sound base layer for the exchange of value for Homo sapien. It's so obvious to me why Bitcoin has the potential to be better. We know why gold failed. Bitcoin steps in to fix those flaws.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the problem is, I like the gold bugs because they got the diagnosis of the problem right. But I think that the main problem is they're just nostalgic. They're not naive. But they are nostalgic. The shitcoiners are naive. And if you want to, for example, if you want to start a new religion, like you said in the beginning, something that picks the best from all the existing religions, you don't want to be naive and you don't want to be nostalgic. And I think that's true for all systems. Like, if you want to build the internet or whatever, if you want to do something that changes the world completely and does something completely new, if you're naive and if you're nostalgic, you're not going to make it. And the gold bugs are nostalgic.
It's also fair to say, I think, that gold could prove to be a great investment and a very strong asset moving forward. But in my view, it does not have the potential to rewrite the language of value.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Is that fair? You know, this may be a
so.
great investment moving forward, especially in a inflationary environment. But it seems obvious that it's failed enough times. It's been centralized enough times that it's not 21st century proof.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand the people that argue that we should go back to a gold standard, because it's like it never worked in the first place, really. It worked for a short amount of time, and it will, immediately run into the same issues. Even worse, because, the world is digital. If you can't email gold, it's worthless, basically. You know, like that's the world we're living in. And the thing is that I think gold, as you said, can win in the short term. I think there's no question in my mind that it all comes down to information asymmetry. And I think the outcome will be that just like silver was demonetized, gold will be demonetized too. And Bitcoin will demonetize gold. And Bitcoin will also demonetize many other assets like real estate and I don't know, whatever. Pick art, for example. I mean, people, I think Saifedean said it first or something along the lines. But if the money is broken, everything else will become money. And that's what we're seeing now. Everyone is fleeing into something, buying something, hoarding something, just trying to buy real estate or like old cars or some art or whiskeys or Rolex watches or what have you. And that's a side effect of the money failing. It's not that these are actually great assets. And I think once the nostalgic people die, like the Fortnite players, they will not ape into gold. They just won't. No, they won't. They absolutely will not. Like if you used V-Bucks for like 15 years of your life, you will not go like, oh man, I need to get my hands on some gold coins or whatever.
I think part of the problem we're having is that our medical science has come so far. We're keeping these boomers alive till they're like 90 years old in office, and we're just not letting them die off. I think that's core of the problem here.
If you saw the I am Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you have a guy that just reads absolutely everything that's on the teleprompter, that's not a good situation.
Shakes hands with ghosts.
Yeah. Puts on medals backwards. And I don't care about politics at all, and especially not about American politics. But it is kind of scary, the kind of
it's
clown
a clown show.
Yeah, that we're witnessing. And
it's a clown show.
I think I really hope, and that comes back to what we said before in regards to shitcoins and the shitcoins being kind of a Bitcoin camouflage or like a shield in a way or something to hide in. I really hope that the transition to a Bitcoin standard, so to speak, doesn't go too quickly. Or let me put it in another way. Like I really hope that the fiat downfall doesn't go too quickly. And I'm hopeful, because it also took it took, I don't know, like 300 years or something for Rome to fall. And I really hope that thanks to Bitcoin, I see it already in my life. I exited the fiat life more or less completely. I work in Bitcoin full time. I live and breathe and think Bitcoin. My whole family is all in. All my friends are Bitcoiners. It's like, my life changed so much that I'm living in the parallel economy already, Granted, I still need to use fiat currency from time to time, depending on what country I'm in. You can't pay outright with Bitcoin all the time everywhere yet. But I think we have a different situation now than we had when Rome fell and when other empires fell, that we actually have a viable alternative. And it's more like the Ayn Randian idea of Galt's Gulch, where, like all the competent people that see what's going on, and it doesn't even, like, you only have to, you still kind of have to be competent to understand it.
It's funny you bring that book up, because the parallels to that book are so compelling these days. You see, Biden's tweet, which was done by some 20-year-old kid out of college, that's telling gas stations to stop charging people full price for gas. Like, these guys are not making profits on gas. They make profits from selling candy in the gas station. Their profit margin on gas is like 1% to 2%. And this is the kind of ignorant stuff that to see a president say on a public forum is just mind-boggling. And it is it's straight out of Atlas Shrugged, where the unproductive people telling the productive people how to run their lives, and these unproductive people don't even have the clue how anything actually works. They're just leeches. They're just sucking the lifeblood out of the rest of the economy, and the productive people in the book just decide to fuck off and let the leeches eat themselves.
Yeah, and I think we see this play out now. I think you see it with the trucker uprising in Canada, now the farmers uprising in the Netherlands and other places. And it's just like if just some people that have no clue what they're talking about are like, okay, like 30% of you cannot use fertilizers anymore for reasons, and it's like, no, like you guys have no idea what you're doing. And we see it also with breakdowns of power grids and power production. I mean, the funniest thing was in Germany. It was like, nuclear power is bad, so we have to switch it all off, and we are going to switch to renewables, which in the Bitcoin world are also called unreliables. And and now suddenly, like, okay, if we don't do anything, then like, I don't know, like 5 million people are going to freeze to death this winter because there's just not enough energy to go around. And, the only energy they can get is basically from Russia. And that's not good because, Russian-Ukraine conflict, and it's basically, a dictator versus democracy. And so you have to play nice on the world stage. Even though you're buying all the gas and all the oil anyway, but you have to act as if you are not doing this. And then the funniest outcome was now that all right, how do we get out of this? Natural gas, that's green technology now. Nuclear is also green, so now we can finally do it again. Like just declare nuclear and gas. That's green energy again.
The goalpost is just moving.
It's such a scary thing to watch. Energy is the most foundational thing of a civilization. Like, we can't operate or run our lives anywhere near what it is we're used to if we don't have prolific energy and cheap energy.
Yes.
And we're watching this regression of civilization right now. Like, it's really scary. And it's, I mean, who's to say how frail and fragile this thing is when you pull the curtain back and you raise energy prices to a certain level? Like, things get really scary, especially when people can't afford the minimum to make their lives. Like, there's going to be uprising. There's going to be a lot of upheaval. And it's scary to think that it's not impossible for this to turn into something way darker.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm kind of, to go back to NVK again, like deterministic optimism. I really am optimistic about the future. And it's also like, I mean, we're living in amazing times. Just the fact that we have like smartphones and Wi-Fi and streaming video, and we can have this conversation and the internet and this shit. It's absolutely amazing.
So cool. And what a time to be in Bitcoin. Like, I retweeted something Lavera sent earlier this week. He had this video. I don't know what this guy's name is. He's somewhere in Europe, but he does these videos where he goes around and interviews people. And he was literally trying to give Bitcoin to people.
Yeah. $1 Bitcoin or $100, and they're like, yeah, I'll take the $100.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to give them Bitcoin, and like, nah. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there saying, I think this is the most pristine thing on planet Earth. Like, what a time to be alive, and what a time for the middle and lower class, to be honest. There's this sort of fascinating juxtaposition. On one hand, the precarious economic environment that we're in and will face moving forward can send the middle and lower class, you could say, one of two directions. If you're clueless, unfortunately, the debasement and inflation is going to insidiously reduce your buying power on one hand. But if you're aware of this new bright orange monetary technology, and even if you're stacking a little bit of it, the potential for you and your family and your legacy is insanely significant in my view. And it you mentioned it earlier, this is a binary thing. I've said to my dad before, trust me, Bitcoin's not going to trade at $50,000 for the next 10 years. Like, it's just not going to do that. It's going to either go to a number that's going to make your head explode, or it's going to disappear. It's one of the two. Obviously, the three of us are on one end of that spectrum, but man, what a freaking opportunity for people that can grasp even a little bit of the significance here.
Yeah. And I always kind of give the same advice to people, and it's just start stacking sats and get a little bit. And the reason why I say this is not, I think, again, DCAing is the best strategy because you have no idea what Bitcoin is doing, because just the world is so fucked up, and it basically, one chart I recently tweeted out again is the volatility of the 1920s of the gold chart, and that's what we are currently living through. But it's not gold; it's Bitcoin, and it's pick whatever fiat currency as on the y-axis. And
for sure,
once you figured out that the fiat system is volatile and the Bitcoin system is anything but volatile, and I'm just speaking about the system, not about the price. Bitcoin is the most stable system we ever had as humanity, period. Like there's nothing that compares ever. Approximately every 10 minutes, a new block comes in. You know exactly what the thing is going to do. It works like clockwork, and of course, I wrote about this at length, how Bitcoin is actually a clock and how Bitcoin is time and so on. But I think most people are not thinking about it in the right way yet. And I think, who was it? I think Ben was it. I think BTC Sessions mentioned it that on your pod, where he said that you should think about your exposure to the fiat system, because the fiat system is actually the one that's risky. And I completely, wholeheartedly agree. Like if you're exposed to the fiat system massively, it doesn't matter how, if you have like big loans or, all your wealth in fiat or whatever, just, be careful. We see it now in the US as well with the variable rate loans for mortgages, and it's just like, don't do this. It's you don't know what you're getting yourself into. It's like 1 month you're paying back $800, and the next month you're paying back like $2,000. Like that's how these things go.
People are conditioned to consume, though, Gigi. Like it is, and people are at fault. I'm not, recusing them of all blame here, but we've lived in a world where in most people's lifetimes the cost of capital has been suppressed.
Yeah.
Huge debt loads have been normalized, and people are just used to owning way more crap than they should. Like in the circles we run in, we are around a lot of people that have a middle class income trying as hard as they can to live upper class lifestyle. And eventually that implodes, but that's just become totally normal, man. I mean, I drive around these neighborhoods sometimes, and my wife and I will just be like, how in the fuck does everybody afford all this shit? And the answer is that half of them or 70% of them just can't, But it's just become so normal. And it's like cash flow is king.
That's why the whole system is so insanely fragile. And I mean, we saw this with the housing crisis and the great financial crisis that followed it. And I mean, Preston often says, we're all spoiled rich kids collectively, basically. And also critical thinking is absent, like people are just not thinking critically about these things, and they don't realize, it used to be like a tail risk that, something happens in the financial system and your house that you're still paying off is actually not your house, but, it will be the house of the bank. And I think now we're just in such volatile and uncertain times, and just look at the charts. Basically, look at the M2 money supply charts. Look at, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a financial expert, but you just talk to anyone who knows about those kind of market conditions, and they will all tell you the same thing. Shit is not looking good. And so, I mean, you guys mention this also all the time. And I think every Bitcoin has the same journey or a very similar journey. And that's coming back to my suggestion of just start stacking sets. That's because you will learn how to use Bitcoin, and you will learn Bitcoin and what Bitcoin actually is. And Bitcoin is a lifeboat. And you always mention the 4 eyes that, first it seems idiotic. It was the same for me. Like I dismissed Bitcoin for years and years and years. I thought it was idiotic. And then it becomes interesting because it doesn't die. I mean, Bitcoin just doesn't die. And then once you hear it for the third time over multiple months or years or whatever, it suddenly becomes interesting, and then it becomes important, and then it becomes imperative. And I think a lot of Bitcoiners that are all in, they know that Bitcoin is imperative for them and their life and their future and the family and the world and so on. And a lot of, I don't know. I mean, it depends. There are some macro and finance people that think it's just important. I think it's absolutely imperative, and I wouldn't even know. Like someone asked me just like 2 or 3 days ago, what other asset would you store your wealth in? And I was like, I wouldn't. I would probably live like a monk and I'd rather have nothing than risk anything. Like I'm fine with just, having absolutely nothing and just getting up at 5 a.m. and begging for some rice or whatever and drinking water off the stream. And that's it. Like everything else is such a shitcoin. It's not even funny. And I think more people will figure this out. And that's why stacking sats and just getting some exposure to it is so important, because then you'll figure out, okay, what is a wallet? How do I use it? What is a seed phrase? How do I store the seed phrase securely somewhere? What happens when I lose my backup? Well, you're fucked. There you go. What is a multisig? What is Lightning? How do you use it? Because if you know that when shit hits the fan, you suddenly can use it. Then you're comfortable, and then it's kind of easy to, like, let's say something happens politically, or just like we saw with COVID, and you suddenly have to flee your country or just whatever. Right. And or Ukraine crisis, whatever. There were a lot of people from Ukraine that just had to flee almost overnight. And then it's, if you know how to do this, you can actually sell your stuff and sell it for Bitcoin outright, or just convert stuff into Bitcoin and just put 12 words in your head and go over the border. That's how powerful Bitcoin is. And people don't realize this yet. And the beautiful thing, that's what you also always mentioned and just mentioned before, that everyone can use it. Like all the blue collar people can use it. There's no barrier to entry. Bitcoin is absolutely free to everyone. It's just like numbers, like everyone can learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's like there's no barrier to entry. The only barrier to entry is your interest in it and how much time you're willing to put in to understand it and use it and so on.
Yep. And Gigi, by have it, you mean actually have it, possess the bare thing. This is what so many people don't compute is, yes, you can go on Robinhood and buy stocks, but when we're gaming out crazy scenarios of the future where things get commandeered or thwarted or manipulated, there's a broker between you and that asset. Yeah. That's the bare nature of Bitcoin is potentially the most empowering thing for the average Joe. Some random Venezuelan farmer with a smartphone can possess bare digital asset for the first time in human history. Yeah. So significant, man.
Yeah, that can't be overstated. Yeah. Really can't.
It's almost impossible to wrap your head around this. Like it really is almost impossible, because it is a digital bare asset. What does it mean? It's these words, like we always use these words, but people don't kind of try to see the meaning behind it and what this really means. Bitcoin is just pure information. All of it, even with the proof of work and so on, but the Bitcoin system itself consists only of information. You need electricity to keep it alive and to secure it and so on, but everything in Bitcoin is just text. It's just pure information. It's all text all the time. And that's what people mean when they say digital bearer asset, that in the information itself is the value. And that's why your seed phrase, your private key, 12 words, I always say 12 words, it's either 12 or 24 or whatever, but just to keep it simple, it's 12 words. You can have them in your head, and it's not like it's a password to a bank or to an account or something. No, it's the value itself. It would be as if, let's say you have like 10 gold bars and you somehow liquefy them and put them in your brain. Let's say it doesn't kill you. Let's say this is how it works. This is what you do with Bitcoin. And then at the other side of the world, you can put these 12 words into a hardware wallet or whatever, and you will have access to like you can transfer the Bitcoin to someone else again. And that's the use of money. The use of money is to transfer it to someone else. It's either someone else directly or yourself in the future. That's the only purpose of money. If you can eat money, it's really bad money. If money goes away, it's really bad money.
Unfortunately, most people, when they decide to put their gold inside themselves, they don't use their head.
Yeah, no. I know.
Yeah, I mean, a noose.
It's there are some speculations.
Gigi, you as a listener, you may know how many times have we talked about gold dildos on this show? It's quite a few now. It's probably 3 or 4 now.
Have you seen the open dime butt plugs?
Yeah.
Yeah,
there you go.
I think we talked to NVK about that.
Yeah.
He's an advocate.
The rounded corners. Yeah, he definitely is.
He definitely is an advocate. I've heard you describe in really great and luminous detail about why proof of work and proof of stake are so vehemently different, and why proof of stake is basically tantamount to nonsense. I'd love to hear you run that by us and hear you flesh that out, because it's a really important point, because 99% of these other coins are proof of stake, and the reasoning behind why proof of stake is simply the same technology we've used for ages when it comes to political money. Yeah. Can you enumerate that for us?
Yeah, of course. I mean, proof of stake really kind of triggers me for multiple reasons because it shouldn't
triggered.
be. Yeah,
We want you triggered.
Yeah, that's going to be the title of this episode. Gigi triggered. Wait, hold on, Gigi. Before you tee off on this, I hate to do this to you guys, but I got to pee like a Clydesdale.
Right,
and I have a feeling we're going to go for a little longer if you're okay. So I'm going to disappear for like 2 minutes. And then if you wouldn't mind.
Let's go. Should I talk about anything else?
Yeah, just shoot the shit with Josh for a second. We'll cut this. Hold on.
Right.
Yeah, we'll just shoot the shit.
I don't believe in cutting.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for part 1 of our chat with Gigi. Stick around until the end of this outro if you want to hear what these two weirdos talk about while I'm taking a piss. As you'll see in around 35 seconds, it gets really strange. Next week, Gigi returns for hour 2, and this time we clear the stage for him to monologue on the significance of proof of work and why the Bitcoin protocol reinvents time itself. You do have a non-negotiable homework assignment between now and the release of the next episode. Go spend 20 minutes and read Gigi's post, Bitcoin is Time. It's linked down in the show notes. Reading through this piece will really prep you to digest what Gigi explores next time. As always, if you're liking the show, subscribe and leave us a review on Apple or whatever app you're using for podcasts or on YouTube. Happy reading, and we'll see you next week on the Blue Collar Bitcoin Podcast. Now, without further ado, enjoy listening to these two losers talk about butt plugs.
Yeah, we'll just let this roll.
We can talk about butt plugs. I remember.
What size are you? What size are you, Gigi? What size butt plug do you prefer?
How does the saying go? Like,
you're probably metric, right? So we have. If you're metric, we might not be talking the same language here. So
there was something from the 2017 bull market where some company developed dildos and butt plugs that would vibrate depending on certain, crypto shitcoins going up or down. So you could get literally fucked by the price, like by the price movements of Litecoin and XRP or whatever.
Yeah, there's no way we're cutting this part out. I haven't heard of that, but that's genius.
Yeah.
You can just get real-time data right into the most sensitive part of your body about how your investments are doing. I mean, I feel like Robinhood should have capitalized on this.
Oh, yeah.
With the retail traders jumping on board. We'll send you the free butt plug that'll let you know how.
Yeah, it would be
performing.
big, in the NFT community. I feel like you buy it's some bored ape and you get a not very bored butt plug with it.
Did you guys fill the time I was gone just talking about butt plugs?
Yes, we did. Exactly. There's no way we're cutting that. By the way,
it's in there, dude.
It's gold.
Wow, I overdid it on the coffee this morning, but I'm strapped back in. Continue. Keep going on the butt plug.
Gigi was just explaining how in 2017 there was someone who built a butt plug that would vibrate with your shitcoin's price. So you know if it was going up or down based on the kind of vibrations you were feeling.
Yeah, you could get fucked by the market.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh man, that's great.